The calm before the storm. Nathan's mission. Nathan Pierce reviewed the gut-wrenching footage of the alien Tharkrian's vicious surprise attack, slaughtering troops and civilians alike without mercy. Nathan's own brother, a young doctor, made a desperate last stand to shield his patients before the aliens cut him down. Now, with Nathan commanding the mighty Terran battleship Defiant, humanity was mobilizing its apocalyptic vengeance. The Theran had no idea of the nightmare they were about to face for daring to provoke the human race. First strike, the Defiant burst out of hyperspace above the icy moon Theran Prime. The steel fortress loomed close, ready for war. Lethal destroyers glided in the blackness, hunting on patrol. Connor's narrow eyes darted between screens, plotting attack vectors with calm focus. Strategic planning, Admiral. I say we launch EMP drones along that fracture. He pointed at a jagged line on the moon's surface. It'll hide the launch. We could blind their defenses. Nathan clenched his jaw, heart pounding with war's rhythm. Do it, he ordered, his voice iron strong. Silent strike, silent as a ghost, the Defiant moved into the moon's broken ice and stone. From her belly, a swarm of EMP drones slipped free, silent birds weaving through the moon's shadowed cracks. On the command ship, Fogger stood tall, scales glistening with authority. He watched the screens, awaiting the human's mistake. But instead of a mistake, darkness came. One by one, his screens blinked out, the kiss of EMP spreading like a virus. Chaos unleashed, confusion boiled within the Tharkrian ranks. Shouts filled the air, orders snapping out but unable to halt the paralysis gripping their defenses. Now was the moment. Nathan signaled the attack with a throaty growl. Fire. The Defiant unleashed hell, cannons spitting death below her armor. Bright destruction speared into the artillery, blooming explosions that chained from station to station. In the silence, Pierce watched the broken moon grow quiet, its guns mute. But the war was far from over. The UTV ships descended like vengeful stars, engines burning for the enemy's heart, carrying humanity's rage. Pierce knew the blood and battle ahead, but there was no turning back. The Tharkrian had struck first, but humanity would strike last. Ground assault. Landing on the moon dust choked the air as Pierce's boots hit the ground hard, the Defiant's shadow passing over the rubble and wreckage of the Tharkrian moonbase. He swept his energy rifle side to side, laser cutting through the haze on alert. Soldiers fanned out, hunting. Ambush and counterattack, a flash of green on a scaled limb. Nathan squeezed the trigger, the bolt sizzled, and the Tharkrian collapsed, scales smoking. Crouched by broken metal, Layla Martinez rapidly wired scraps into explosives, fingers flying as she created traps. She glanced up at Nathan and gave a thin smile, grimly turning destruction to defense. Defensive measures, good work, Martinez. Nathan's voice cut through the din. Keep them coming. Yes, Commander, she called back, setting another deadly surprise. Relentless assault. The Defiant rained fire down as thuds of impact punctuated shouts and screams. The Theran shots mostly glanced off armor, some finding flesh. Each human hit drove the team's anger and fury. The Theran regrouped, adapting but not quickly enough. They charged with brandished weapons, only to be blown apart by Martinez's traps. Bodies and shat. Cries were thrown by the explosions. Advancing through destruction, Pierce advanced, stepping over smoldering wreckage. Control. This is Pierce. Bring the rain, he said into his comm. High above, the gunships answered, carving up structures with surgical strikes. The moon-base defenses crumbled under the barrage. Thror watched the human swarm dismantle his base on the holoscreens. Fear and fury gripped him. He slammed the panic release. The chamber hissed as the dark shape within began to move. The creak emerged, its snarl shaking the air, massive and built to slaughter. Unleashing the beast. Thror's desperation at the sight. The Thar soldiers rallied, hope flickering in their eyes. But Nathan's gaze hardened as he reloaded. The beast only strengthened his resolve. "Bring it on," he whispered. Beast versus human determination. The fight raged on. Human determination against alien desperation under the cold stars. The Defiant cast a long shadow over the broken ground as UTV soldiers marched toward the enemy HQ. Boots crunched on gravel. Dust clouds rose with each step. The air tasted like metal and fear. Commander Nathan Pierce led the march, his rifle hugged tight to his shoulder, his squad close behind. The ground shakes in the gray waste. The ground shuddered. It shook again, a warning in their bones before orders came. The ground exploded. The creek erupted from below. It towered, limbs thick as trees, mouth full of sharp teeth. It roared, the sound crushing the air, silencing the guns, gripping hearts with raw terror. Battle with the beast Martinez hit the ground, back to a shattered wall. Bullets sparked off the creek's scales. Missiles exploded on its skin. The beast moved freely, swiping aside debris and soldiers. Martinez breathed fast and sharp, hands shaking as she reloaded, each shot desperate and useless. A desperate plan. Nathan saw the beast shrug off missiles. Dread spread through his gut. "All units, Pierce here. Focus fire on that thing. All support, hit it now." He barked into the comm. Missiles rained down. The creek stood firm, its skin mocking their efforts. The toxin doctor Alan Kim stood out amid twisted metal and trapped cries. The man, used to microscopes, now raced through the war, a vial clutched in his hand. "Pierce," he yelled. "I've got something. A toxin could take it down." Eyes on the creek, Nathan nodded, his heart hammering hard. "Cover him," he ordered. Delivering the toxin, a squad shifted fire, drawing the beast's rage. Gunfire bought Kim seconds. Nathan watched Kim dive under the beast, dodging falling debris and jaws with desperate precision. Kim stabbed the vial into exposed nerves. The creek wailed. Its pain echoed off ruins, the sound curdling blood. The monster thrashed erratically as the toxin spread. With one last cry, it collapsed, the ground shaking with its weight, turning the tide. Victory and reflection from the war room. Fur saw his trump card fall. Monitors flickered, the once unbreakable beast now a corpse. His hands clenched into fists, scales clacking in frustration. The truth hit him like a punch. Humans were not docile creatures. They would not be provoked. A lesson learned too late. Securing the base, Nathan Pierce led his squad down the smoke-filled corridor. Burnt wires and metal floor scraped their boots. Glowing alien weapons flashed around the corner. Connor moved up front, a stolen disruptor in hand. He nodded at Nathan, his blast shorting out the alien weapons in sparks. The squad took out the troops with quick shots. Confronting Thor, Nathan pressed forward, his team following, forged by battle. Each loss drove their advance, intensity in their blood. The doors burst open under their fire. Thor stood inside, guards around him. "Surrender, Thor," Nathan's voice boomed. "End this. No human commands the Theron." Thor roared back. Chaos erupted, blasts and metal clashed in the tight space. Capturing the enemy, Nathan ducked a swipe, rolled, fired back. Another guard replaced the fallen. One by one, the guards dropped until only Thor remained. His suit hummed with power in the cramped room. He charged, too slow. Nathan aimed at the joints. Thor fell, realizing his defeat. His weapon fell as he gasped. "I yield." Aftermath, Nathan nodded, signaling his team. "Secure him. Medical for all." Word spread of the surrender. Tharan forces stopped, morale agon. The war ended. Nathan felt grim satisfaction of duty done, not joy. Thor dragged his chains as he walked into the dim room. Guards stood on both sides, avoiding his eyes but staring nonstop. Thor was their captive now, but the humans didn't gloat or cheer their victory. Rebuilding and hope. Building trust outside, Nathan Pierce stood on the torn battleground where Tharan and human blood had soaked into the dirt. He carried no guns, just a data pad and water. Dust hung in the air, reminding everyone of the recent fighting. Nathan looked around at the devastation, then went to talk with the new Tharan leaders who approached hesitantly. They were survivors now in charge, eyes uncertain but willing to hope for peace. Joint efforts, they talked, voices sometimes rising over the noise of bots and vehicles bringing supplies. A translation drone hovered between them, making sure no words got mixed up. This wasn't about terms anymore. It was logistics, sharing resources, working together. Humanitarian aid. Nathan had set up a medical camp near the main road, now crowded with human medics and foreign healers working side by side, stitching wounds, setting broken bones, comforting. He stopped to help lift a fallen beam off a young Tharan child. Seeing the kid's scared face, Nathan passed the child to a waiting medic, getting a tiny nod of thanks, a gesture going beyond words. Building the monument, news of these actions spread fast, faster than any ship could fly. The Thar Kreen, who had expected extinction, now saw something different in the invaders, a desire not just to conquer but to rebuild, to help. It confused some, reassured others. Nathan visited the monument site every day. The design was straightforward but grand, a pillar with alien and human names reaching upward. A shared future at the unveiling. The crowd was a mix of colors. Foreign children clung to parents as Nathan stepped forward. Today, we stand not as conquerors, but as allies, as friends, his voice boomed. This stone is for those lost, the cost of fear and misunderstanding. Let it also bridge us to a shared future. Thar nodded, murmuring a word meaning both hope and new beginning. Moving forward, Nathan touched the monument, thinking of his brother and the others. Tensions still crackled, but there was a shift, a cautious step toward something different. Nathan looked at the faces, human and alien, and saw this wasn't just a new chapter for the Thar and humanity, but for the whole galaxy. Diplomacy and resistance. Council's reaction silence filled the Galactic Council chamber when the crackling transmission came through. Human voices announced a ceasefire with the Thar Kreen. Some alien leaders shuffled uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, checking devices to confirm it. New Alliance's ambassadors lined up at the Thar Kreen Prime dock. Ships hummed, engines cooling as diplomats walked off, carrying scrolls and pads. They moved through the crowded port, looking at the defiant among the ships. Nathan Pierce stood straight among the humans. Aliens circled, seeking deals or help. Forging treaties. We want a defense treaty. An insect ambassador clicked, holding out a claw. Nathan took the document. He scanned it and made notes. Let's meet and discuss details, he said firmly. Talk swirled about tech trades, events, and research. One alien showed engine blueprints for faster travel. Another had artifacts for a museum. Cultural exchange in the command center. Humans and Thar worked together. The sharp scent of solder filled the air as they built stronger networks. Markets buzzed with new bonds. Aliens tried human food, grinning or grimacing. Humans wore alien tech that shimmered. Every deal and laugh tied closer bonds between old enemies. Maintaining peace, the Defiant patrolled overhead, reminding all of the line between peace and war. On the bridge, Nathan listened to steady reports. Nathan met leaders planetside. They pored over maps, planning routes. This path could cut delivery times, a merchant said, tracing a glowing line. Check it safe first, Nathan replied firmly. New threats. There were still grumbles of dissent, but no one denied the busy streets, joint efforts healing wounds. Nathan watched his people, ensuring readiness. He stood guard at the border of a new dawn. The sun fell below the skyline on Thar Kreen Prime. The air chilled, and the first stars blinked awake. It was supposed to be quiet now, but peace was fragile, and Commander Pierce knew that well. Shadows of war. Ongoing threats. Nathan stood outside the main tent, the light from inside casting shadows on his face. We got another one, Sergeant Miles said, walking up. His look said it all. Another blast, another grainy video of shadows running into the new streets. Pierce checked the report. Casualties. 4 hurt, no dead. Martine stopped a second bomb, Miles said. The report joined a growing pile. Each told of similar attacks in the capital. The Tharan hardliners, calling themselves the Kreen Hive, hit the weak parts holding society together. Formulating a plan, Pierce's hands curled into fists. This wasn't the war he knew, with clear lines and enemies. This was shadows, and it needed a new strategy. We've got to cut them off, root them out, Pierce said, mostly to himself. Miles nodded. We've got human and Thar intel on it, but they always vanish. Coordinated effort the next day. Pierce met with the Thar commanders in the center. They gathered around the city map. Officers stood together, tension thick between the races. Trust was new and fragile. Pierce started the meeting. The Kreen Hive uses the chaos, trying to drag us back to war, back from all we've built. He looked at each face, human and Thar. We stopped them together. Ambush and resistance. Tolar, a seasoned Thar commander, stepped forward. We have locations, but when we arrive, they're gone. A map appeared over the table, marked in red. We hit these spots at once, Pierce said. Surround them. No escape. Executing the plan, the attack came that night. A cold wind blew as teams quietly moved into place. In a cramped vehicle, Pierce and Toller tracked it all. Teams checked in, whispered over comms. Alpha in place, Delta Team go. Then, Bravo under fire, ambush. On screen, red dots flared as violence took Bravo. Back up now, Pierce commanded, feeling control slip away. A Pyrrhic victory, they battled into dawn. As light broke, Pierce walked the wreckage of the last Kreen Hive base. Just empty tunnels left, the enemy gone again. Outside, Pierce saw the tired coalition faces, human and Tharan alike. A victory, but at a cost, and a deeper fight ahead for the peace they all ached for. Part 8. The Undercover Operation. Nathan's frustration. Nathan sat at the edge of his cot, head in hands. He had underestimated the resilience and cunning of the Kreen Hive. They had slipped through his grasp again, leaving destruction in their wake. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the tent's flap. Intel from within. Sergeant Miles entered, saluting sharply. Commander, we've received intel from an inside source. They claim they can lead us directly to a Kreen Hive stronghold. A risky proposition. Nathan looked up, skepticism evident in his eyes. And why should we trust this source? It could be another trap. Desperate measures. Miles nodded. I thought the same, sir, but we have to take risks. If there's even a chance of stopping them, we need to act. Undercover mission. Nathan stood, determination replacing doubt. Fine, we'll go undercover. Gather a small team and prepare for infiltration. This time, we'll end it. Preparing for infiltration, Nathan's team assembled in the shadows of a ruined building. Each member was handpicked for their skills and trustworthiness. Layla Martinez, Dr. Alan Kim, and 2 elite soldiers, Corporal Jenkins and Private Lee, made up the squad. A dangerous journey disguised as civilians, they slipped through the city under the cover of night. The streets were eerily silent, broken only by the distant hum of patrols. They followed the directions provided by the informant, hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The informant's hideout, they arrived at a dilapidated warehouse. Inside, a hooded figure waited. The informant's voice was raspy, a mix of fear and resolve. You're late. The Hive is planning a major attack. I can get you in, but you have to trust me. A fragile trust. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Why are you helping us? A shared goal. The informant pulled back the hood, revealing a Tharan face marred by scars. My family was killed by the Hive. I want them stopped as much as you do. Infiltrating the stronghold. The journey to the Hive stronghold was tense. They moved through underground tunnels, guided by the informant. Every step felt like it could be their last. Inside enemy lines, they reached the entrance of the Hive's base, a fortified bunker deep within the city. The informant handed Nathan a keycard. This will get you inside. Good luck." The final confrontation, Nathan nodded, leading his team through the heavily guarded entrance. Inside, they moved silently, taking down guards with precision. They reached the command center, where the hive's leaders were gathered. A swift strike, the element of surprise, was on their side. Nathan and his team burst into the room, weapons raised. The hive leaders barely had time to react before they were subdued. Ending the threat, Nathan stood over the fallen leaders, a sense of finality washing over him. "It's over," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion and relief. A new beginning with the hive dismantled. Peace slowly began to take root. Nathan and his team returned to the surface, greeted by the dawn of a new day. The battle was won, but the journey to lasting peace had only just begun.